schools, mathematics is taught sequentially, beginning with counting, followed by addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and then students are introduced to algebra, then they walk their way through geometry, trigonometry, and then arriving at calculus. Typically during their high school, and mostly they will be in the age band of 14 to 16 while they study calculus. Now comes the big question: why majority of students find math so hard, torturous, burdening, and importantly disinteresting? Obviously, we don't have a single straightforward answer, but majorly it's pointed towards of how it is being taught very dry, hyper precise, and generally lacking illustrations, and on top, difficulty in comprehending and relating to real life examples. Well, looks like Steve Strogatz, the popular mathematician, also had to undergo this ride when he was studying linear algebra during his first year college at Princeton. So, in fact, Princeton is a dream place for many physicists and mathematicians, including Steve himself. As all of us know, Einstein had an office in the university's math building in 1930s. Though he wasn't associated with Princeton University, actually he was working for the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton. But since the building was not ready at that time, he had to occupy an office in Princeton University, which was actually a temporary arrangement. And then later, he spent 22 years of his life in the Institute for Advanced Study at Princeton, where he published several of his works, turning this place into a scientific icon. But Einstein published his general theory of relativity way before he came to Princeton. Welcome back to the series of Calculus of Friendship. In this episode, we shall continue talking about Chase problem, as Steve has discussed about yet another important pursuit problem through his letter to his teacher Joff in March 1977. And this is all about the popular $4 problem. Or so to say, this problem is being discussed for about, say, close to 3 centuries. It was actually first framed by Bouguer, a French mathematician, way back in 1732, and then after a century, that is in 1871, R.K. Miller asked this problem in a university math exam, but he didn't formally publish it. But then later, another French mathematician, Lucas, first published cyclic pursuit in 1877. Then soon after in 1880, Henry Brocard spelt out the log spiral. And in 1908, Hackett worked out the numerical analysis for this, followed by Bateman, an American mathematician, defined the non-symmetric problem. Interestingly, Hackett and Bateman had learnt these problems from Frank Morley, a popular mathematician who is known to have brought mathematics in America from a minor position to where it's now. Later in 1950, Hugo Steinhaus included this in his puzzle book, and in 1959, L.A. Graham mentioned about this in Math Problems and Methods book. Finally, it was Martin Gardner who popularized this problem by publishing it in the Scientific American magazine in the Math Games column in 1965. And from there on, it has been worked out extensively by many mathematicians. Now, the problem goes like this. There are 4 people in each corner of a square, and each of them are chasing the person who is just next to them, and they take either clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. Let's say we consider those 4 people to be a business tycoon, a celebrity, a politician, and a common man, as shown here in this figure. Let's assume that the common man is chasing the celebrity to get an autograph and take a selfie, whereas the celebrity is chasing the business tycoon to tie up for a business venture. But the business guy is chasing the politician for venturing into politics. Interestingly, the politician is behind the common man for obvious reasons. It is to be stated that all 4 of them are chasing at the same speed, and they are trying to catch only the person who is just next to them. I have to make a mention about this problem that it is quite a popular one in interviews. But one may wonder what relevance it has to real life scenarios. Well, if you have paid attention to the ants trailing in a straight and nice line, precisely, there will be a pioneer ant and each ant pursuing the one in front of it, leaving the trail so straight and nice. Or birds flocking together and giving a fantastic view, or see these fireflies in perfect sync. And these could be extended for robotic phenomenon, military forces, and probably these pursuit problems could be extended to stock market behavior where the greed chases fear or vice versa. And interestingly, a recent research suggests that this syncing up helps in bringing a compatible atmosphere. Now let's look how to solve this at school level without much of high powered calculus or geometry. One would easily arrive at the symmetry of the problem, meaning after a time, say delta t, let's consider as 1 minute, all the 4 persons would have moved a same distance, say d1, as all of them are chasing at the same speed. And they form the vertices of the square with the positional rotations and size shrinks as they chase each other. And this continues, say at t2 it would be d2 and at time t3 it would be d3. Finally, they would be spiraling inwards meeting at the center of the square as we could see here. And also, we could see that, say, when common man is chasing the celebrity, they are always at perpendicular direction, meaning common man is approaching the celebrity at a constant rate. This implies that as if the celebrity has stopped and the common man is approaching him. Therefore, this leads to a simple answer that all 4 persons would have traveled side of the square to collide at the center. And the time taken is just the ratio of side of the square to the speed with which the persons are chasing each other. Seems to be quite intuitive and simple, isn't it? Now, if one wants to do it systematically, let's formulate the problem for any number of people. Consider n people initially at the corners of a regular n-sided polygon. With time, they all move towards the nearest person at the same speed v as shown. Since a polygon is regular, the subtended angle between the adjacent persons, say A and B, will be 2 pi by n. Let's consider the radius to be r0 at time t is equal to 0, and as time progresses, theta will reach 2 pi by n and r tends to 0 as they collide at the center of the polygon. Resolving the velocity v into radial and tangential components, we arrive at Vr to be dr by dt, which is minus v sine pi by n, and v theta to be r d theta by dt, which is v cos pi by n. Rewriting d theta in terms of dr, we get d theta by dt to be d theta by dr into dr by dt, but dr by dt is minus v sine pi by n. So, we get r into d theta by dr into minus v sine pi by n, which is equal to v cos pi by n. So, rearranging this equation, we arrive at dr by r, which is minus tan pi by n d theta. So, integrating this equation, we arrive at ln of r to be minus tan pi by n theta into c, the constant, and r is equal to exponential of minus tan pi by n theta into c. So, in order to evaluate the constant, let's apply the initial condition where at theta is equal to 0, r is r0. So, the integration constant will become r0. So, substituting this in the original equation, we arrive at r is equal to r0 exponential of minus tan pi by n theta, and this gives the arc length of spiral path. And if one is interested to find out the time taken for all n people to reach at the center of the polygon, writing dt in terms of dr by dt, we rewrite the above equation as integral of dr by dt, but dr by dt is minus v sine pi by n. So, the limits become integral of dr by minus v sine pi by n r0 to 0, which is nothing but minus 1 by V sine pi by n into minus R naught. So T becomes R naught by V sine pi by n. In order to calculate the distance travelled to reach the center of the polygon, S is nothing but the product of time taken into the velocity, which is R naught by V sine pi by n into V. So V gets cancelled and we arrive at R naught by sine pi by n. Now if we come back to the original 4% problem, R naught and A could be related as, like, from this figure it's quite clear that since all the 4% are occupying at the corner of the square, and this is R naught, this is R naught, and this is A, so it's 2 R naught square to be A square, so R naught is A by square root of 2. Whereas for n-sided polygon it would be R naught will be equal to A by 2 into sine pi by n. So now for n is equal to 4, that is for square, R is R naught exponential of minus tan pi by 4 theta. So it is R is R naught exponential of minus theta, which is a popular log spiral equation which we will talk about in a minute. And rewriting R naught in terms of A, the arc length of the spiraling path will be A by square root of 2 into exponential of minus theta, and T time taken will be A by square root of 2 by V sine pi by 4, which is A by V, and S is equal to A by square root of 2 divided by sine pi by 4. So square root of 2 gets cancelled, and S, the total distance travelled by each chaser, will be the side of the square. So this is what we arrived while doing it intuitively. And for n-sided polygon, T becomes A by 2 V sine square pi by n, and the distance travelled S will be A by 2 sine square pi by n. And if one is interested to find out for few other polygons, say for example triangle n is equal to 3, we get S to be A by 2 sine square 60, which will be 2A by 3. And for hexagon, we get S is equal to A by 2 sine square 30, which will be S is equal to 2A. That is for hexagon, the distance travelled by the chaser will be twice the side of the hexagon. Now back to the log spiral equation, Jacob Bernoulli, the famous Swiss mathematician and discoverer of mathematical constant E, the word integral, calculus of variations, had a very interesting wish that a logarithmic spiral should be engraved on his tombstone, together with the motto Eadem mutata resurgo, which translates as although changed, I arise again the same. He believed that log spiral is a symbolic representation of hope for the resurrection. He did get a spiral, but unfortunately it was Archimedean type. These log spirals are found abundantly in nature, like shells of mollusk or nautilus, that is the conch, and the fossil ammonites, and also in spider webs and in sunflowers, just to name a few. So back to our original question, if teachers stay aware and practice such abstractions and learn to demonstrate these abstract concepts through examples around us, it will help students to visualize why and what are they doing with such formulas and equations. Thanks for listening. Shall catch up with yet another episode.